Yes, what is it? Very good. If you'll help me with some of this equipment then.
Back across the water now. At least we are getting our exercise in today.
If you'll please carry that amplifier, officer, and if you'll take that spool of cable, we should be able to move it all in one trip. And now if you'll just connect that here...
It's done. I believe we are ready.
We're ready to try at least. Please put on these headphones. There should be 2 extra sets. I've configured the channels so that only your microphone is set to broadcast, officer. We'll all be able to listen, but anyone we reach will only hear your voice. You will need to transmit your connection request while I attempt to locate the warship's public frequency. You will likely encounter some interference, but it's important to keep transmitting your request until you're acknowledged. Ready? Then it will be exactly like every other moment of every other day. I ask again, are you ready? Good. Beginning transmission.
A soft rustling. Between your ears, a winterscape with fast-falling snow. Every light switch, every motor carriage, every doorbell, tea kettle, and radio in Martinez, all mingled with electrical interference caused by scattered thunderstorms over Ozone.
Officer, are you in order? We're waiting for you to start. We don't have time for indecision. Just say whatever first comes to mind.
You're all alone out there, wandering a blasted heath, calling out to the night, but there is no reply, except for the buzzing of invisible machines. The lieutenant looks up at you with a nervous glance. Nervous for who, though, you cannot say.
Try again, officer.
Perhaps you're simply imagining it, but it seems as though you're learning to pull apart the fibers of this auditory felt. You focus on one strand in particular, one that sounds very nearly human.
Nein, Liebling, das lasse ich nicht zu. Wie kannst du unseren Jungen bloß auf einen dieser Dinger nach Bredefort schicken? Marianne hat mir erzählt, dass Oscar nicht mehr, seit er auf einem Luftschiff aus Graz zurückgekommen ist. Halten ihn die Psychologen für vollkommen normal. Aber sie hat das Gefühl, seit seiner Rückkehr mit einem Fremden zusammenzuleben.
You can't make out a word of this gibberish. rustling of dry autumn leaves, waves breaking at a distance, 1,000 wings beating at once.
Liebling, bitte. Er ist unser einziges Kind. Er kann auch nächstes Jahr zur Akademie gehen.
It's crosstalk. In all likelihood, they can't hear you. You have to keep trying until we get a signal through. Again?
It's calm now.
A slight frisson at the point where your neck meets your spine. Something about the lieutenant's words directed at you, but not you.
I didn't say anything, Detective.
Someone has been maintaining it. The wiring has been repaired.
An uncomfortable silence falls over the connection.
It's been a long winter. Long and cold.
I promise you I didn't, even though it certainly sounds like me.
I can't say with certainty, but it sounds very much like anthroponetic crosstalk. It happens sometimes when sending transmissions across long stretches of pale.
Ah, yes, of course. That must be it.
Outwardly, they both exude calm, but there's something disturbing about this thought to both of them.
Natürlich halten ihn die Psychologen für vollkommen normal.
Ah, very good thinking. I'll engage it now.
Someone has been maintaining it.
That's much better. Please try again.
Where's she back? Arrivederci, Tequila Sunset. Please acknowledge.
Damn! Even with the crosstalk suppressed, the signal is still very weak. I did not expect simply locating the signal to be so difficult. We must consider several variables. Local anthroponetic conditions, the sophistication of our transceiver, the quality of our connections, and the physics of our antenna itself. Fortunately, we have a more than adequate transceiver, so I do not believe it is causing any problems. And we're also unlikely to change our local anthroponetic conditions. So, the next step is to thoroughly inspect our connections. I did not expect simply locating the signal to be so difficult. We must fortunately, and we're also, you need to climb up there and look at them for yourself.
Someone has been maintaining it.
Something about this setup seems dimly familiar, but you'll be damned if you know what you're supposed to do about it. Images of your body smashed against the pavement flood your mind. This is dangerous.
Then you might break your neck.
Your gloves give you a solid grip on the metal bar. This feels pleasingly familiar. You don't exactly cut a lithesome figure, but after several moments of scrambling, you manage to hoist yourself atop the monument. That performance was frankly an embarrassment.
You're doing all right, Detective. Just keep your focus on the task at hand.
The connection itself is nothing more than a little braid of exposed wire wrapped about the hoof of the horse. A copper fetter it cannot slip. The whole monument is covered in a thin but durable layer of oil and grime. It's obvious no one has cleaned it in years. It takes a few moments, but the alcohol gradually begins to break down the oils surrounding the copper wiring.
Is this really the time, Detective?
It's all right, Lieutenant. He's simply cleaning the connections.
Once the oils have been dissolved, you wipe off the connections with your sleeve and reattach the cable.
I had hoped that between the signal purifier and cleaning the connections that we would have it, but perhaps I overestimated.
Unser einziges Kind. Er kann doch auch nächstes Jahr zur Akademie gehen.
Short of changing the shape of the antenna, I'm not sure what else we can do from here. And the lorries are all jammed together, so that's unlikely to happen. Ideally, narrow the receiving mode so that we can isolate the warship signal and eliminate the crosstalk. And if you don't know what you're doing, of course you could just make it worse. What do you mean? You adjust the antenna manually, with your hand. I'm afraid we're out of alternatives. You're just going to have to go for it.
She's right. The responsibility is yours, and yours alone. There's no turning back now. You are face to face with Philip III. The Bronze King looks toward the west. Something about his features seems bizarrely distorted. This faithful steed is in nearly as poor a condition as its rider. A few of the idle lorry drivers and strikebreakers gesture at you with their cigarettes, more out of curiosity than anything else. From the window of one of the adjacent apartment buildings, an older woman leans out, her heavy breasts sagging. She yells a single word you can't make out, and then shuts the window with a violent thunk. A clear night sky. The stars make for a brilliant display. Across the river, you can see the lights of Coalition warship Archer floating above Rivershore East. You allow the broken hunk of metal to clatter to the ground. It wasn't clear to you it did anything anyway.
Nein, Liebling.
What are you doing? The connection is even worse now. This is extremely unprofessional. That is because you broke it. Things stop working when you break them. Or did you not know that?
She's right. This was your responsibility.
Damn it. I'm going to push the power supply. I doubt it will last more than a few minutes, so you'd better make them count.
A maelstrom of sound, swirling and swirling around an invisible point. It's mounting, mounting.
Nicht mehr derselbe ist, seit er auf einem Luftschiff aus Grad zurückgekommen ist.
Officer Sunset, please respond.
It's too much. Your eardrums are throbbing, about to burst.
A long winter, long and cold.
And then, nothing.
Drive now.
This is Warship Archer. We are acknowledging and accepting you. Though we're still getting quite a bit of interference.
This is the best we can do. I suggest you get to your business quickly. I doubt I'll be able to maintain even this connection very long.
There is so much you wish you could ask, but you probably only have time for 1 or 2 questions before the signal is lost.
Please be advised that you are speaking on a public frequency. What is your request? A very important question with a very simple answer. We want humanity to endure. Beyond that, it may be said that we are the inheritors and stewards of Dolores Day's legacy. Immeasurable. It includes interstellar travel, 3 scientific revolutions, humanism, internationalism, the welfare state, and balance of terror theory. Nothing less than the intellectual foundation of our modern order. The role of the Moralist International is twofold: to buy humanity sufficient time to perfect itself, and to patiently guide it along the road while protecting it from ideological highwaymen and eschatologists. It's an elegant idea, one of the cornerstones of the modern era. In short, it holds that durable, lasting peace is possible when the major powers are capable of inflicting unacceptable and irreversible destruction upon one another. Because no rational state is willing to accept the risk of such a calamity befalling its own people. All powers are incentivized to de-escalate conflicts before they reach the point of no return. For the most part, it has. The world is certainly not free of violent conflict, but in the modern era, we have made great strides to reduce its frequency, duration, and severity. It was established by many of the same founding party members who elected Dolores Day, and who, after her assassination, dedicated their lives to the continuation of their political and intellectual projects.
The other members of the founding party moved to Sur-la-Clay and invented modern corporate finance. Their names may still be found on the pediments of some of the largest investment banks in the world.
There are many. The communists say they are the next dialectical step in an inexorable spiral of progress. They claim to have resolved the inherent contradictions of moralism and believe they're just one revolution away from establishing a humanist paradise. The fascists say they are both the ancestors of and the successors to Deloreanism. In other words, they believe that Dolores Day's reign simply represents a glorious phase of expansion within a greater Franco-Nigerian heritage. They criticize the DeLorean project for accepting and integrating new peoples rather than forcefully subjugating them. And then, there are our prodigal cousins, the Vazan Social Democrats, who hold our same values and have even adopted many of our same rights and iconography, though they persist in rejecting the umbrella of moralism.
For some reason, it's the Social Democrats she sounds most exasperated with.
Yes. Atomic war, environmental degradation, resource exhaustion, viral pandemic, supervolcanism, runaway anthropogenetic collapse. This is why it is critical for the international community to work toward peace and cooperation between nations. There's simply too much at stake. The RCM exists under the umbrella of the coalition, just as the coalition exists under the umbrella of the moral intel. At the same time, the RCM is not exactly of the coalition. It's our understanding that the RCM's organizational structure predates the coalition. We believe it may even be modeled after the communal brigades themselves.
There is some truth to that.
But in a practical sense, it's the responsibility of the ethics divisions to ensure that both organizations are working towards the same ends.
The Ethics Division is the branch of the RCM that coordinates activities with the coalition. It's composed of high-ranking RCM officials and their medium-ranking moral intern counterparts. It's considered a career-making assignment for elite RCM officers. In other words, it's a fundamental part of the RCM, so you probably shouldn't ask her any questions about it.
Because the coalition has no interest in running Rebashol. We'll succeed in our own mission the moment Rebashol rejoins the international community as a sovereign democracy. The RCM is an integral piece of that project. Let us answer your question with a question. Have you ever seen evening fall over the old town of Vesperashit? If you had, then you would remember. It is one of the great wonders of the world, impossible to mistake or forget. The heart of the city, the old town, is a district composed of weather marble, comprising thousands of columns and arcades arranged around a series of grand plazas. During the day, it's a beautiful sight, equal to any of the great cities of Pericarnassus. But as the sun sets, the shadows cast by those columns and arcades weave together to form an intricate ombre lattice. When you see it, you suddenly understand. It was all built for you, for this very moment.
The name at Vesperaskit means evening comes.
Not only that, but you are also part of that centuries-long plan. When you cross one of the open plazas, your own shadows is effortlessly woven into the great lattice work, a deliberate synthesis of humanity, art, and the natural world. It is possible. We grew up there. We have seen the lattice with our own eyes. She was. There are even those who say that at Vesperashit summoned Dolores Day, or that it was built in preparation for her, centuries before her arrival. That's why the old town is sometimes called the ceremonial heart of humanity. Of course, such a city does not spring from nowhere, nor does it endure without effort. Its construction was the work of many generations, and its preservation is an equally monumental responsibility.
The wind is pulling at the giant tarps that cover the blasted facade of the Capeside apartments. Air moving through what was once a row of apartments protected by walls and a roof. It sighs through the remains of bedrooms and parlors. This is your city. Defend it at all costs. A moment of hissing static as the conversation lulls.
Officer Sunset, are you still there?
I'm not joking, officer. I'll only be able to hold the signal open for a few more moments. What you came here to ask it now.
Is everything all right? Acknowledged. To reach the committee, all you need to do is fill out the appropriate request form and submit it to the Liaison for Public Affairs. If the liaison accepts your request, you will be invited to address the committee at their next quarterly public hearing. We believe the next hearing is scheduled for July.
This isn't about you. Not really. It may have been at a certain point. But you've let go of that perspective. This is about your responsibility to all of Revachon. Now, take a deep breath. Look upward. You don't have to bear the burden alone.
What? How do you know this? Officer, this is a very serious claim. Please describe the situation as succinctly as possible. We will forward your summary to the committee.
There's papers rustling in the background. She's clearing her desk, preparing to take notes. There, you've wedged your foot in the door. Now, if you can show the Coalition how much they're needed, they'll have no choice but to intervene.
Please continue. We're listening. We have it. Is there anything else the committee should know?
Detective, before you answer that, I urge you to weigh your words extremely carefully.
We're afraid we must ask you to repeat that, Officer Sunset.
Afraid? What is she afraid of? Her tone has shifted. She's no longer herself. She's reading from a script. Your words have activated some sort of procedure.
Acknowledge. Listen very carefully, officer. We're going to ask you a series of questions. It is imperative that you answer as directly and truthfully as you can. Do you understand? Good. First question. Are you currently in the vicinity of Surrey, the North Arcade Islands, or near Pale Offshore Platform in Sul Indico? Very good. Next question. Would you describe the phenomenon as internal to the Isola or external to the Isola?
What she means is, actually, you have no idea what those words could mean in this context.
Next question. At the time, did you experience sense objects? Yes. Examples may include sound, memory, light. Let's go on. Final question. Were you alone?
How could you be alone? You're a star, man. You've got an entourage and adoring fans wherever you go. You are part of a large family. You are never alone. There's no need to overthink this.
We repeat. Were you alone?
You hear the sound of a page ripping.
Thank you, officer. Please stand by while we transmit our summary.
A long winter.
I'm not sure how much longer I can keep the signal clear, officer.
Officer Sunset, this is collision warship Archer. Please acknowledge. Thank you for standing by. We are authorized to report the Committee of Responsibility for Rebel has acknowledged and accepted your request. They would like you to address your matter to the committee directly, as their earliest convenience. Local matters can wait. Collision Shuttle Laurel is setting a course for your position. They will arrive momentarily. Stand by.
Fat raindrops explode all around you. You wait, exposed to the meteorological bombardment. At least you're wearing a hat.
So? They're really coming!
The lieutenant adjusts his microphone and slowly looks up toward you.
Well, what now? You've accomplished your side task. You've contacted Coalition Warship Archer. I suppose what I'm asking is whether we are about to lose you to the moral intern. Afraid of what, detective?
A little rhyme jingling in your mind's attic. Of the future, of the past, of all that is not made to last. The lieutenant takes a moment to compose his thoughts.
Detective, each of us has our part to play in the world. My part is to solve crimes. I am under no illusion that my role isn't a minor one in the scheme of things. But I embrace it because it's my role, and it's yours too, detective, whether you accept it or not.
The lieutenant's final words are nearly swallowed by the roar of the aerostatic's main rotors.
Officer Sunset, this is Collision Warship Archer. We have been instructed to inform you that the Laurel arrived at your position. Please acknowledge.
No shit. How are they supposed to hear your acknowledgement over the thundering of their own rotors?
Thank you. The Committee of Responsibility for Rebel has authorized us to offer you an immediate extraction. Do you accept? We are far past that point, officer. There is only one question now. Are you ready, or are you not? Repeat that, officer. What do you mean, you can't? Are you being impeded in some way? We have to say, this is extremely disappointing to hear, officer. What the consequences will be for your refusal to accept responsibility, we cannot say. For your sake, we pray they are not more than we all can bear. And now, we are updating our frequencies. We will not speak again. This connection will be cleared in 4, 3, 2, 1. Après le monde, le gris.
And the line goes quiet. The lieutenant gives a long sigh as he removes his headphones. There's relief on his face as he turns toward you.
I think it's best for you to climb off the statue now, Detective. Your real work is done here.
There's a damp cold running up the insides of your thighs. Your legs have grown stiff. You've been up here quite a while. You look around. The strikebreakers are still shouting their slogans and waving their hand-painted signs. Beneath you, the lieutenant and the programmer have begun disconnecting a few cables. There's really no point. You're beginning to feel like the little child who refuses to come down off the carousel.
Good. Now give me a hand with these amplifiers. Leave the cables. I don't feel like making 2 trips.
What's one more trip across the waterlock?
Well, this was an interesting collaboration. Perhaps you're more reliable than the writers I used to work with. Though, that is not a difficult part to clear. In any event, just leave that equipment here. I'll put it away later. If you'd like, you can take one of the extra headsets. I don't need so many spares. Now, you'll excuse me. I have to get back to my own work.